both sides to make a deal have to want to make it. I have my own views. I want to keep them quiet for a little while because if I ever end up in the midst, that would be a great achievement to get a real peace. And I want to meet with Bibi. You know, I'm going to be probably going over there pretty soon. And I want to see him. I want to see other people. I want to get some ideas on it because, frankly, that has been, and I say it to everybody, that has been the all-time difficult deal. They've been working on it for so many decades. I mean, it just never ends. But the key is a lasting peace. If you have a lasting peace, first thing you have to ask, do they both want to make it? I have a real question as to whether or not both sides wants to make it. I have a real question as to one side in particular, whether or not they want to make it. Well, I don't want to say that right now. I think one side actually would like a deal, and I think it's
million net, net, net. The Cardinal told me that's net, net, Donald, remember. We can also agree on the need to stand up to anti-Catholic bias, to defend religious liberty, and to create a culture that celebrates life. America is in many ways divided. Thank you. America is in many ways divided like it's never been before. And the great religious leaders here tonight give us all an example that we can follow. We're living in a time and age that we never thought possible before. The vicious barbarism we'd read about in history books, but never thought we'd see it in our so-called modern-day world. Who would have thought we would be witnessing what we're witnessing today? We've got to be very strong, very, very smart, and we've got to come together, not only as a nation, but as a world community. Thank you very much.
Now, Donald Trump has announced that the time has come for the U.S. to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. There has already been a wave of criticism to the proposal across the Muslim and Arab world. Trump also gave the green light to moving the American embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv.
Therefore, I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
RT's Caleb Maupin and 24 News correspondents Jordana Miller and Mohammed Al-Qasim joined us earlier. Caleb in New York, Jordana and Mohammed are in Jerusalem and the West Bank.
In his remarks, Donald Trump insisted that the USA was still committed to a two-state solution. He went on to say that he actually wanted a good deal for both the Israelis and the Palestinians. Now, here's just a selection from what Donald Trump said when he was trying to justify his decision.
This decision is not intended in any way to reflect a departure from our strong commitment to facilitate a lasting peace agreement. We want an agreement that is a great deal for the Israelis and a great deal for the Palestinians.
Now, we've also heard from the region. Turkey, a member of NATO, has been very critical of the decision, as has Saudi Arabia, a longtime U.S. ally, which hosted Donald Trump not long ago. Now, we've also heard some reactions from Europe. Now, we know the French leader has called this an illegal action and said that it is a violation of international law.
Jerusalem is a final status issue that must be resolved through direct negotiations between the two parties.
The status of Jerusalem should be determined as in a negotiated settlement between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and Jerusalem should ultimately form a shared capital.
Now, here in the United States, Israel supporters are certainly jubilant, but other parties are quite upset with the decision. It's been quite a mixed reaction here in the USA as well. So across the planet, there's been lots of controversy in response to Donald Trump's statements, but as he reiterated many times during his speech making the announcement, he insists that he is still committed.
And unacceptable measures deliberately undermine all peace efforts and proclaim that the U.S. are abandoning the role of sponsor of the peace process that they have played over the past decade.
There has been minor clashes throughout the West Bank, and in fact we've heard that there has been some demonstrations in East Jerusalem. There will be general strike and calls for days of rage. We've heard also reports of demonstrations in Amman, Jordan, and also in Ankara, the capital of Turkey, in front of the U.S. Embassy, as well as demonstrations of a few hundred Turks in front of the U.S. consulate in Istanbul. Wide condemnation throughout the Middle East and the Muslim world with the decision that President Donald Trump took by moving.
A historic day. The president's decision is an important step towards peace, for there is no peace that doesn't include Jerusalem as the capital of the state of Israel.
He went on to call this a just and courageous decision, and he called on other countries to follow suit. Now, it doesn't look
Discussing the situation there earlier. Politicians around the world have already reacted to Trump's decision. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, British PM Theresa May, and EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini have all expressed their disagreement with the move.
The German government does not support this move, because the status of Jerusalem is to be negotiated within the framework of a two-state solution.
We disagree with the U.S. decision to move its embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Jerusalem as the Israeli capital before a final status agreement. We believe it is unhelpful in terms of prospects for peace in the region.
The European Union expresses serious concern about today's announcement by the United States President Trump. The aspirations of both parties must be fulfilled, and a way must be found through negotiations.
We spoke to Hussein Bagchi from Middle East Technical University, who believes the U.S. and Israel will have repercussions to face over this move.
I think he has taken the risk this time, not business risk, but political risk, and the Middle East will be a turmoil. I think America and American citizens will not have very easy life from now on in the Middle East and in many other parts of the world. But this is the decision of the American administration, and only America can repair this if Donald Trump is taking his decision back. But this is another process. So I would expect now in economic, political, and social and psychological sense, a lot of problems for the Middle East, for the United States of America, but also for the entire Islamic world, which composed of 57 countries as Conference of Islamic Countries.
Of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. In that day, saith the Lord, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength, and the Lord of hosts their God. In that day will I make the governors of Judah like an hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem, and I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the